Drop it on the random.
What does joining Hip Hop Now's Patreon mean? It means supporting the kind of hip hop content that keeps you updated on the latest hip hop news and moves. It means supporting the production of content like That Time in Hip Hop and Hip Hop Now Reviews. It means you care about the conversation and preservation of hip hop music and culture. Hip Hop Now Patreon supporters get exclusive access to bonus content, merchandise, and more. Support the movement. Become a supporter of Hip Hop Now podcast today at patreon.com/Hip Hop Now.
Coming up on this week's episode of Hip Hop Now podcast, ELECTRONICA drops his long-awaited debut, Act 2. Coming up on this week's episode of Hip Hop Now podcast, ELECTRONICA and Jay-Z drop Watch the Throne 2. Nah, that's not right. All right. Coming up on this week's episode of Hip Hop Now podcast, ELECTRONICA. Fuck it. Start the show.
Let's get right to the business.
Read these headlines. This album must be gone. This album must be gone.
Classic album.
Come to Hip Hop Podcast. What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast designed to catch you up on all things hip hop music and culture that happened throughout the week. Returning listeners, what up? I know you hit that subscribe button. I know you hit that share button. I know you hit that like button. New listeners, how you doing? How your mama doing? I hope you stay. Definitely do the same by hitting those magical buttons there to stay locked in to hip hop content. Big shout out to the Patreon listeners. You can become a Patreon supporter of this very podcast and help generate more content, better quality, and in merchandise. It's getting warm. T-shirts. You like t-shirts? How about first ever Hip Hop Now podcast t-shirt or other merchandise? All you have to do is go visit patreon.com/Hip Hop Now. Become a one-time supporter or become a monthly supporter. But if you support, I appreciate you. And I appreciate you even if you don't support. Maybe you support by listening. That's fine too. But I would appreciate it if you got down with Patreon. That's all I'm saying. Big shout out to hiphopdx.com, allhiphop.com, djbooth.net, and a couple of other places where I'm getting some of these stories from. Now, let's get the cat out the bag. COVID-19 coronavirus is going around. You know what I'm saying? Some places is heavier than others. In New York City is getting a little heavy. You know, a little inside on me. I don't really talk about my own business too much, but my brother been working from home for more than a week now. Early. And the good thing for me is I had a lot of practice with working from home in a very recent past. Well, not that recent, but recent enough. So, you know, a brother like me is able to adapt, you know, so there won't be no cabin fever, you know. I just go sit out in my grass somewhere when it actually gets warm and type and things of that nature. And think of content to create for y'all. But I just want to say to listeners who are out there who listen to this podcast all the time, you know what I'm saying, be healthy, be safe. Regardless of what you may feel, whether you feel it's real or it's generated or it's part of fear, whatever the case may be smart. Use your best judgment. So if your best judgment is to not believe, that's fine. But you should be washing your hands anyway, because that's nasty. You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't have nothing to do with the virus. It's just nasty. But nevertheless, man, just stay healthy, be safe. You know what I'm saying? I hope everybody and their family and their loved ones, you know, are going to be in good care. And, you know, we'll get through this because, you know, they're canceling sports and everything. And they're canceling everything in hip hop. So let's get right into the business at hand. Because of the coronavirus spreading throughout the United States, there have been a number of shows, festivals, South by Southwest, a couple of other festivals, even some concerts have just been canceled. And I know it's got to be putting somewhat of a crunch on artists, because the thing is what a lot of people think, like, well, you got money, you got videos, you got merchandise, blah, 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 and you got a record deal, but they make a lot of the money they get that's tangible that they can get like right now is show money. And not that you can't do a show, but it's risky. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, for example, in New York, like places like the Barclay and Madison Square Garden are kind of shutting down because of the simple fact, you can't have a Knicks or a Nets game or a boxing match going on, and you can't have more than 500 people gathering in one place. Now, you may say, well, I'm doing a show at SOB's, so it ain't going to be 500 people in there. That's for sure. I've been there. But it's still a gathering of a crowd. It's still, just because it's a smaller crowd doesn't mean one of the people there doesn't walk in and they have the coronavirus. That's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? It just means that small crowd is going to get it, and that smaller number can affect less people, unless you have a case where you have 500 people exposed, and now you have 500 people going to their families and to other people, and it just spreads quicker. So I get it, but there are other sources of revenue. I know it's easier for me to say I'm not a performing artist, but you just got to find other ways to get bread. You know what I'm saying? I would say to rappers, just put it out there. The ones that really, really need it, especially if you have a name. If you just a round the way rapper, then, you just got to keep your indie hustle going, I guess. But for somewhat established rappers, I was mainly probably speaking to the old school rappers. I would say, put it out on social media. Yo, you want a feature? It's how much it's going to cost. I'm going to be in the lab. You know what I'm saying? Since we quarantine, I'm going to be in the lab. You send me the beat. I'll send you the verse. You do the transaction. Still making money, right? I know it's not show money, but you get a couple of people who want to have, and I'm just throwing it out there, I want Lord Finesse rapping on my album. Well, hey, Lord Finesse maybe charge, a G or more, maybe, who knows, less. I don't know. Just an idea. Waka Flocka Flame said that he'd annihilate Nas and KRS-One over an 808 beat. And he said that's when whack rappers win. Now, it's kind of, at first when I read that title, I was like, say what? You know what I'm saying? Because just thinking about Waka Flocka Fame as a rapper, and then comparing him to like a Nas and a KRS-One, and mostly not just comparing skill, but comparing body of work, and saying, well, he's not even in a league to even attempt to say he could rap better than them. Let's get a quote from what he was saying. He says, let me say I'm a whack just so, wait, what? Let me say I'm a whack just so y'all can actually hear people say, no, this guy's actually the GOAT, one of the GOATs. I'm not saying I'm the GOAT. I actually be sitting next to them by default. Oh God, it's really hard to read the way he talks. All right, let's go to some other quotes. What he said, reverse psychology. That's what he was thinking, right? So here's the quote. It was more so of this generation and the people that got power and feel that way, he said. I be seeing make these little lists that say influential people of the decade, and I be sitting here like, yo, hip hop never sounded like this before me. Who's more influential than that? Okay, cool. I'm a whack rapper, I guess. I don't know if this is the transcription being off or he just talks so terrible that it's hard to transcribe it. It's harder to read it, but whatever. I kind of got his point. So basically he's saying when you look at lists, essentially his name never comes up, right? Most influential, hot, dopest, whatever rappers of ever, and I guess he feels some kind of way and feels like his name should be mentioned on at least one of these lists. So to him, he's like, well, if I never fall on this list, then I must be a whack rapper. And I feel like over an 808 beat, I would murder a Nas and a KRS-One. That's what I take it as. Now, I'll say this. I think he would get Nas. I'm not even going to front. Nas over 808 beats haven't been great. But I'm thinking more so trap beats. Now, the only reason why I didn't say KRS-One, and I'm kind of hinging my bets even on Nas, is the fact that 808 beats existed back in the 80s in hip-hop. A lot of those beats from the early 80s hip-hop had 808 beats. Just not the 808 beats you're accustomed to hearing today. But same style, but different. You get what I'm saying? I'm willing to bet that KRS-One and even Nas, because even though Nas wasn't out, he still was around for the 80s, and he still had to be a rapper before he actually had an Illmatic, which means he would have been rhyming over some really old school style beats before the beats he would, be introduced to us over, right? So I'm pretty sure they're familiar with rhyming over those beats. I mean, he also did write most of the, if not all of the bars for the Netflix series The Get Down, which was a lot of 70s, 80s style rapping, but I won't say just 808 beats because I don't want to get it confused, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I think 808 beats now kind of belongs to a new school sound of music, and a lot of people, except for really old heads, remember when 808 beats was something from the 80s. So I mean, honestly, I don't know. But I don't see it. I don't see why to even say KRS-One and Nas, mainly because maybe those are the names he always see. Maybe he feels like he wants to challenge himself against them. I'll say this: Nas is going to ignore you. Y'all remember, right? After Ether, I don't make another song about a rapper. Don't bother me. Don't bother Nas. Remember when he said that to Angie Martinez? Like, I don't want to make another song about another rapper. He kind of meant that. He kind of got it out of his system at that time, and you don't really get Nas diss records. Like, you gotta really look at that 2001 to maybe 2003 era, and that's all you getting from Nas as far as taking shots directly at rappers. You're just not gonna get that. Not this in this stage of his life. Now with KRS-One, I'm gonna say this. I remember around that time when a lot of rappers were dissing each other, and right before or during maybe when KRS-One had the whole Nelly battle thing where he just roasted Nelly. I don't know why Nelly even tried. It was just terrible competition. KRS-One said that he stayed with Rhymes diss records about the dopest rappers at the time. Meaning he stays ready to battle. So whether he got a beef with you or not, he got bars for whoever is the best rapper at that time. Now I'm pretty sure he does not have bars for Waka Flocka Flame, but I'm pretty sure he didn't have bars in the stash for Nelly, and what he wrote for Nelly was dangerous. If you can go back and find those, I think it was 2 diss records he made to Nelly, and it was just such a landslide. Nelly had like one dope line, one bar that I was like, ooh, okay, Nelly. He had one. KRS-One had 2 whole songs that were just finished Nelly. So I don't know. Maybe people talk about, Waka Flocka and they don't talk about music. Maybe they talk about reality TV or the meme that we all like to use. Just stop it. Speaking of battles that no one cares about, and We're not going back to, you know his name, Nick Cannon again. We're not talking about him. We're talking about the other guy who actually had a really good diss record against Eminem, but cheapened it by basically shamelessly using it to, you know, kind of get more fans, which he probably did. Well, now he's trying to do it again. And now Machine Gun Kelly is bragging about killing Eminem on a single he has out called Bullets with Names. And we all know Eminem has an album out, and it's, you know, most people like Eminem like it. Some people don't, and that's fine. No one's mad. Not at all. Not at all. Not one bit. But I just need him to chill. I need him to chill. Here's a little excerpt from what he said. Killed me a goat so my jacket got stains on it. Wiping my nose like I got some cocaine on it. Pulled out his coffin and ate a plate on it. Called up his bitch. Showed my dick. Let him lay on it. I guess so. Whatever you say, Mr. Kelly. Whatever you're saying, Mr. Kelly. I mean, no one can, like, at some point, man, I don't get 2020. And look, Machine Gun Kelly and even Nick Cannon, these, you can't blame their corniness and the fact that people are ignoring them, hip hop people are ignoring them. You can't blame that on youth because they not that young. So just chill. Like, man, he's so cheapened his diss, like, towards Eminem. That first of all, I liked the video. I like what he was saying. It was on point. Even the fact that Eminem came back but didn't really have something that was good, like, but people still felt like, well, Eminem is clearly nicer than you, and I would just never buy your music because I've never really been into you. That's just the reality of it. So there's no amount of dissing that Machine Gun Kelly or Nick Cannon can do that are going to make hip-hop fans who either like or at least respect Eminem's skills to feel like they want to mess with you when it comes to hip-hop. I'm pretty sure he got some fans, but again, please, just chill. Now, this is the thing, right? Because of the coronavirus, the news is really light, right? Because most of the news that's out as far as hip hop goes surrounds everything being canceled and a lot of shenanigans on social media and not much music that at least the people who like to listen to this podcast would really, really care about. Now, there's been a couple of, album releases, but there's one in particular that we need to discuss. And no, I'm not going to review it here because that's why we have a whole segment dedicated to reviews, and that review will be coming this weekend. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. But ELECTRONICA has finally released his debut album. 10 years, I believe, maybe even to the date, I think, since he had the hit record Exhibit C. Now, again, I'm not going to get into it heavy as far as my thoughts about the album and ELECTRONICA as a whole, past and present and future. But I am going to talk about the basics of the album. The album is 10 songs total. Features are light when you look at it, right? You see 10 tracks, you're like, okay, 10, not too long. I could do this. I mean, I've been waiting 10 years, might as well. The name of ELECTRONICA's album is A Written Testimony. So after you look at that, you look at the 10 tracks up here, you look at the titles of the songs, like, oh, Overwhelming Event, and Ghost of Soldier Slim, and The Blinding, and The Never Ending Story, Shiny Suit Theory, we heard that years ago. Universal Soldier, Flux Capacitor, Fruit of the Spirit, Ezekiel's Will, and APIDTA, you like, man, this sound like this is gonna be like potent, sound potent. The titles and the name of the album cover too. I mean, I don't even know what's going on. It just sounds like it's gonna be great. Perfect time for somebody like me who's quarantined in the house playing 2K and Call of Duty all day. But then when you hit play, oh, wait a minute, that's another J on that record. And he's on another record. And he's on another, wait a minute, he's on every goddamn record. Sure, Travis Scott is there and The Dream shows up, but Jay-Z, this album, let me just get it out the way for those who don't know. This album is literally Jay-Z and Jay Electronica group album. Now, some may look at it and say, well, it's not how they're promoting it. They're calling it a Jay Electronica album. But it really plays more in the vein of, put it this way, it's not a group album, right? Watch the Throne was Kanye and Jay-Z, and Watch the Throne was kind of like their group name. This album is by Jay Electronica. It just says Jay Electronica. It doesn't say J and J. You know what I'm saying? It's Jay Electronica. So this album is more like Only Built for Cuban Link. Except it doesn't say featuring Jay-Z the way Only Built for Cuban Link said featuring Ghostface. But Jay-Z is on all of it. So the rumors were true. Now, again, if you want my full review, you can just go check out the review. It's on this very podcast stream. All you got to do is subscribe, hit that like button, or just search for it, Hip Hop Now Podcast. But I think it was a very interesting choice. I remember when I heard the rumors and I was trying to figure out, nah, that can't be true. Is it? Jay Electronica, 10 years since your album, and you come out with an album and Jay-Z's all over it. Now, one thing I will say about this album is the simple fact that it was recorded in 40 days, I believe they said. I think they recorded it in 40 days and released it after 40 days. Because I remember the announcement from not too long ago. And they held up their bargain. They were supposed to have a listening party, a title like listening party in Los Angeles, New York. It was canceled because of you know what. So it dropped. And here it is. And what I've seen on social media is a lot of mixed reviews. And I'm starting to feel like they're like always two extremes when they're like highly anticipated or big albums that come out, even like movies and television shows. There's always like these real huge extremes. There's somebody who hates everything about this, and there's somebody who is over exaggerating how good the album is. Now, for my opinion, you'll get that, but just not here. But what I do want to know is, after 10 years, after the hype, the anticipation, were you anticipating Jay Electronica releasing this album? What do you think about what you got? Do you want more? Is this just right? Is this perfect timing? Are you just happy because you kind of got a Jay-Z album on the low? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Bars. That's going to do it for me for this week. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at VegasWorldINC. And to subscribe to this podcast, all you got to do is visit your favorite podcasting app and enter the words Hip Hop Now Podcast. Hit that subscribe button and stay locked in. Also, become a supporter of Patreon today by visiting patreon.com/hiphopnow. It's in the description. Until next time, y'all, I am not a critic. I'm a fan. Jay Electronica really released an album, though. Not really. It came out. Came out, fam. Yeah, Hove all on it. Drop it on the random.